So now I'm going to try and draw some fingers a little bit closer up uh, and with a little bit more detail. And so here, what I'm doing is just on my own hand showing you the difference between where the knuckles are and where that webbing is, and it's something I'm kind of harping on maybe a little bit, but it's very important. So let me get the page aligned a little better, and now here I'm kind of refining my knuckles a little bit, my fingernails, something that I haven't drawn up to this point, but you can see that where the knuckles are, the fingers get a little wider, and where they aren't, it narrows out just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and maybe line weight that just a little bit. And now what I'm doing is I'm drawing the wrinkles for the knuckles, and you can see I've got my knuckle placement in basic shape, and I just try and use those to kind of describe that. I use a little bit of a thicker line for, you can see just for where my nail is there, to make it look like it recesses, which I think it does. And just using line weights, and because the knuckles are actually a little bit raised, it's helpful to draw them the way that I have them there, with the lines kind of around them. You've got the overall shape of the finger drawn, and then the knuckles drawn as if they're kind of raised off that finger just a little bit. I don't know if I'm describing that as well as maybe I could. I'm not sure how to really describe that, but it really helps kind of delineate the knuckles. What you really want to avoid, because the knuckles don't have any kind of, they don't really curve under or have a hard line to them. Uh, you can't really just draw them as a, you can't put a hard line into to draw a knuckle. You have to hint at them and kind of come around them a little bit. So they're a little difficult to draw for me that way. Uh, and I think you can see so much of the way that I'm making this look a little bit more realistic is just using line weight. And all I'm doing is I'm making the lines thicker at connecting points and thicker in underside curves. So I'll decide where my lighting is. Generally speaking, certainly for the purposes of the demonstration here, I've got my lighting coming from the top and slightly to the left. So as a form curves away from the top and the left, I'll make it a little thicker. And as it curves towards that, if it were a sphere, the opposite side of the sphere would be a little thicker, and the side coming up towards the light is lighter. And there are times I'll even break that up for effect. I'll just break the line entirely where it meets the light, and that can be pretty effective to make things look like they're kind of in an environment. So here I'm drawing a finger that's coming towards you. It's, I find for me, actually an easier thing to draw a finger kind of in perspective a little bit for shortened than to look directly down at a finger. And so all I'm doing is I'm drawing the finger is segmented, and you can see the padding underneath the fingers. I'm not just drawing as a curve. I'm actually curving it in, and kind of curving it back out, and that gives it just a little bit more dimension than to just draw it as a kind of a sagging curve. Just doesn't quite have the same feel to it. A lot of things that I draw when I'm working, I'll use a thing that I like to call line of beauty, which, well, I don't like to call it. It's actually Bridgman's word. George Bridgman called it line of beauty, and what it is it's a curve that reverses on itself and curves the other way, much shorter. So you'll have a long curve, and then it comes around the other way, and you have a little bit of a short hook at the end, and it's much more visually pleasing than just a simple curve. So I try and use that as much as possible. Again, line weights, connecting points, and Here, there, I'm drawing just in very simple terms, the way that I break down the joints of the finger. And now I've got my finger casting a shadow onto the other finger. And this, for me, is where hands start getting a little bit more fun. Once I start getting into the details and making them a little craggy and getting into the wrinkles, and I always enjoy that. I think I'm maybe a little too detail oriented sometimes, but that kind of stuff is just very fun for me. And now I'm going to draw the palm of the hand in more of a detailed way, and you can see how the line that I have coming from the thumb to the hand, it's got a curve that kind of reverses on itself, and that's what I'm talking about. And if you look all through there, lines that I'm drawing have that curve, and then I kind of reverse it just a little bit. And it's something that I've gotten to the point that I can't help but drawing. I've trained myself to do it over so many years that I don't even think about it. It's like handwriting. The more you do it, the more it just becomes natural, and eventually it's not something that you actively think about. It's just the way that you work. And to work effectively as an artist, you really need to get to that point, which is why it's just I think that the difference between somebody that really excels and knows what they're doing and somebody that's still learning is it's repetition. Just doing the job. You just have to keep drawing and drawing and drawing, and eventually your work becomes so ingrained in your head that it's like handwriting. And that's how it feels for me drawing usually. Unless I'm struggling, it almost feels like I'm writing a picture.